Good evening, everyone.
How's everybody doing?
What's happening? Hello, JJ.
Hi, Matt. Hi, Tom.
JJ Flizanes. Did I get that right? I want to always make sure that, because it's an interesting last name looking. When you read it, you're like, okay, I'm pretty sure I got this right, but gotta ask.
Yep, you
Right?
do well.
Great. Cool. Well, thank you for coming on. I'm excited to kind of get going. But before we kind of just want to get rolling by asking you, a little bit about yourself, how you got here, and just kind of get us into it, and let's see where it goes.
Okay, I can do this in a couple different sound bites for you. So my name is JJ Flizanes. I'm an empowerment strategist. I was a personal trainer for 25 years. So when it comes to health hacking, I'm right there with you. I know all about all kinds of stuff in that department. My personal training career led me to ask deeper questions. Well, I was already a spiritual and emotional person before all this, but I started asking different questions about pains and why someone couldn't fix a certain part of their body. And it led to the cross between just the physical and then the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and of course, epigenetic and quantum physics. So I blended all the worlds together.
Yeah.
I blended all those things together and launched Empowerment Strategist. Been a podcaster for 10 years, over 10 years, have a network of my own called Empowering Minds Network. I have developed something called the Core Wound Map. It is based on the imago therapy world of looking at core wounds within a couple's therapy situation. And I just actually, as of the recording of this yesterday, had a conversation with Harville Hendricks, who created imago therapy and wrote a million books, and explained my core wound map to him and asked him if he'd write the foreword to my next book. So he said he'd be honored, and I'm off to the races.
Awesome. There you go.
So thank you. Thank you.
So I don't have the amount of time required to go through every one of those things because I want to dig in on a 5-hour show on like all of those. So we're going to have to pare it down a little bit.
No problem.
Look, our audience drops off at 45 minutes.
It's funny. I'm deeply involved in a quantum computer company right now. And when you said all that, it's like when you look at all of the quantum level stuff, and, we've used this a lot in the world, right? Like quantum entanglement with other things in the universe and spirit families and all this other, universal energy. Talked about it a million times, but it's really weird space in human evolution where we can now put a computer against that same level of existence. And so there could be 50 podcasts on this topic alone.
I love to just, whatever is interesting to you, as a podcast coach, another aspect, I tell people to do the show you want to listen to. Talk about what you want to talk about.
So what I love about your story is that it's actually not related to any one of your stories. It's kind of the story that wrote all those stories, right? Which is your sort of breadth, right? And I love that about you. And I think that was one of the things that I took away from our conversation, where I was like, yeah, you know what? This is another person who thinks a lot like Tom and I, like ultra wide, deep in some areas, less deep in others, but like there's a way to connect the world as a whole to pretty much anything, right? And that's kind of what I love. But so is that true? First of all, it seems like I was right, but maybe I'm not. And if so, how did that influence how you get into all these things? Because there's a lot of dimensions to what you're talking about here.
So where are you guys in the world of astrology? Are you the we think it's a bunch of BS?
Oh man,
it depends on the day.
Yeah.
Wait, it's Mercury in retrograde because I have a different opinion then.
Yeah. Today
it's
for
not.
me, it's I like it as a curiosity, but to say I take it too seriously would really be overselling it. Yeah, I do not.
I had somebody once, they're like, of course, you're a Capricorn. And I was like, no, I just really don't like that.
Yeah.
Like whatever it was, I'm like, no, that seems dumb to me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about astrology as a whole. It was literally like, no, you're a Capricorn. Of course you're going to do that.
I've been told a million times that I'm a quintessential Cancer, and best I could tell, it means I'm a whiny bitch. Like that's kind of like that's kind of like that's sort of like the most I could take away from that. So I'm like, all right, look, maybe that's true, maybe it's not, but I don't know.
Look, JJ, we're not going to be offensive, I promise. But
yeah,
it's going to be funny.
Literally, I'm not, even though some people would probably argue who listen to my show, I don't really care what everybody believes. I talk about what I believe and what I work with, and if you agree with it, cool. And if you don't, you can go to someone else's show. Like, so it's not.
I also think that, like, as long as you have a framework that you're operating from, and it seems to work for you, then that's okay.
Well, let's follow the bouncing ball. Where does that go? Like, so let's say I was like, hell yeah, astrology all the way. What would have been next?
So you're gonna be like, holy shit, where's she going with this?
No,
sorry if can I swear on this show? Okay.
My God, it's fucking called Irreverent Health.
Yeah, excellent. All right, just checking. All right, well, here's the super woo woo for anyone. And again, if no one knows what I'm talking about, it's not gonna mean anything.
You don't even know. I did a demon possession treatment the other day in the clinic. So
okay, well there you go. So you asked me how, sort of, if that was accurate about how you described me, and I'm going to say yes, because my Mercury's is in Aquarius. Okay, so what that means is that Aquarians have this sort of big picture thinking, and they're usually able to see sort of trends that are coming and happening. And I also have the ability, one of my superpowers is to be able to pick and choose and connect dots of things that don't necessarily connect and find the through line. So because of that, it is a wide breadth of being interested in health and relationships and quantum physics and spirituality and everything that is life, really, to me, and even business. All of it kind of connects in some ways. And my journey has been like getting deeper and deeper and deeper, and I'm very curious. I ask a lot of questions. That also is many, many Sag planets. I'm curious, and I always have been. I've always asked why. And if someone doesn't have a good answer for me, then I keep searching until I find a good answer that resonates with me. And then I go, okay, cool, I can accept that. I believe that. And then I move on. So I've just been interested in my own self-development and care from the time I can remember, and curious. So put those two things together, and you have that I choose professions and subject matters that directly relate to me, that affect me. And then I learn, and I want to help others do the same or glean what I've gotten from whatever I'm doing.
Matt and I were told we're just ADHD.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But, the guy that founded TED Talk said you learn what you like, right? So that's what you're going to resonate to. That's what you're going to naturally have affinity for. And that's what you're going to, like, take to heart and run with.
For a long time, I agree with you completely. For a long time, especially after sort of moving from personal training, and I stayed so long because I'm really good at it. When I finally actually learned science, because my brain doesn't work like memorization. I did well in school, but I wasn't like that nerdy science person. I was more of the creative person. I was more of the visual person. I did a lot of performing arts and visual arts. So I went to an acting class. Was in acting school, and in New York City in a Tisch school, I actually learned more about science and religion and history than I ever had sitting in high school, because it made it real. It made it something I could see. So moving into personal training, and when I kind of realized I had a left brain, and I'm like, oh my God, I understand this. I can blend this together. It means something to me. I started to use that. Oh my God, I'm awake now. I have this right brain that I know is very active, and now my left brain can actually make sense of science. I stayed a long time because of that blend, that sort of right-left brain blend in the personal training, in the physical fitness, I've worked with functional medicine doctors for 25 years, both in an office as well as on my show. I work with all kinds of integrative oncologists. Like, I just ask all of the people who are on cutting edge information and challenging the status quo of Western medicine and anything that we think that's been told to us by doctors for 30 years. I challenge all of it because, again, unless I see how it works, I want to know more. I want you to make sense of it to me in all these different realms and all these different frameworks. So yes, you're correct in that I see a lot of different connections and a lot of different ways for people to improve, and a lot of ways for me to improve, from my health to my relationships to my financial to whatever. And I've addressed that through learning different sciences, and then sort of I've been in an evolution. I've been evolving, and so here we are. I am working deeply with people's core wound patterns, and I think I know it affects all parts of their being, from their relationships to their health.
And it's funny the way you laid that out, because I think so much of it echoes, Tom, stuff you and I talk about all the time. It's like you have a conversation with 8 people, and then you have a conversation with that 9th one, and you're like, okay, those 8 people are all kind of seeing the world kind of as they're
same
told.
way. Yeah.
to see the world. And then there's this one person who just sees through all that stuff and sees around a lot of the other stuff and is like, you know what? I'm kind of on a different path because of this information that I've taken in and how I take it in. And it really, it's like the older I get, the more I realize that like people we have on this show, people like myself and for sure, I'm like almost seeking out to the exclusion of everything else, that type of path, because it is sort of not just highly personal for any one of us, but like it also is what everybody else around us wants to ask you and doesn't have the articulation to ask. Because as soon as you start telling them about it, they're like, yes, that. And now all of a sudden you're helping another person and you're like, well, I'm only helping you because of my deep interest in this.
Yeah.
You know, and now I'm helping you and now you're going to go help some. It's just a really cool thing to watch because we're all very similar, right? They all want to think like you, JJ, like everybody would if they could, but they're at a minimum, when they hear what you're saying, they're like, I couldn't think of the words, but that's it. That what she said.
I also think that the like a core thing that I'm hearing is like, okay, that's great, but why? You know, and if the why is not credible, well, then the whole argument's discredited, and then you move on to a different approach, and that leads you down a pretty deep rabbit hole sometimes.
It started when I was getting divorced.
Huh.
And my ex-husband and I'd said the last ditch effort was to go to imagotherapy. I'd already been doing my show at that point so that was 2017. So I'd already been doing my show for 3 years. And I had learned a lot, and I'd basically used my show to try to save my marriage. I had on all kinds of people too, because I knew he wouldn't hear it from me. And I thought, well, maybe you'll hear it from somebody else. So I'll bring on other people to say what I want you to know or learn. And it did work to some degree. But anyway, we get to this place. We're in this couples therapy. It's imagotherapy. I finally wanted to do it forever, but I waited to have a partner who'd want to do it with me. And of course, it's too late by this point. But we do this exercise. It's a core wound exercise. Oh, he was already 1.5 feet out the door. The only reason why he did it was to say that he did it. He wasn't actually looking to save the marriage or to change. But he did it. And this core wound exercise answered so many questions for me. It became so clear. It was a life changer. This one exercise. And he didn't even finish his. So we couldn't even like do the real work together as a couple, but it didn't matter because it was so transformative to me. It answered so many questions that I said to the therapist, and I told this to Harville yesterday. I said, why isn't every single person in therapy everywhere doing this before they get into therapy? Because it literally, that's why I call it a map. I've created a core wound map because it's like when you get in the car and you want to drive somewhere you've never been before. Yes, now we have GPS on your phone, but literally you needed a map. You needed to follow something to show you where to go or have choices of routes. I can go this route. I can go that route. But this map, when people go to therapy, it's, if you have a traditional talk therapist, you're being asked how you feel and why you're there. And then you talk about whatever you're droning on about that you're upset about. And the traditional therapist says to you, that's terrible. How do you feel about that? And there's no responsibility given to the person. So there's years and years and years wasted telling stories that never move the needle for you as a person growing into taking responsibility for where you are and what you've attracted and doing anything about it and actually making big change. Now, if you're listening to me and you have a therapist you love, or you are a therapist and you help people become different in the same situation, that's my quote, healing is when you're different in the same situation, then you're doing a great job. But there is a lot of traditional talk therapists out there. And when I started my show and I started offering it's like sessions, people would come and they'd have 2 sessions and be like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm just in a different place. I feel so good about that. And I'm so excited. And I've gotten more out of these 2 sessions. And I've been in therapy for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. And I was like, great, because we're actually creating a structure. And you guys as men would appreciate this. I think that most men hate therapy because there's no structure. Just go in and you're just told.
Therapy.
Yeah, I fucking love therapy, man. Are you
therapy.
serious?
Yeah,
no,
okay,
go
good.
I
fucking cry for an hour and be like, I don't know what's
I'm all
wrong
into
with me.
therapy.
I've
been doing it since college.
The minority.
Every couple of years, I'll go in for a little bit of a stint, get a little refresher course, and then, then I bail when it feels natural. But yeah, I love it, man.
I normally go like, just hear me out. Am I fucking nuts here?
Yeah.
like, am I seeing this wrong?
You know what's
the therapist? Yes.
You know what's funny though is the more times I go in for these rounds, the less I feel like I need them because like they always teach you a thing to conquer the thing, that you're in the middle of. And I'm not getting any younger. I've done this a couple times now. So like the big things that I'm likely to relapse into, I already have like a template for that I know works.
Some coping structure.
And so I'm kind of like, all right, I'm feeling like it might be time. And then all of a sudden I'm like, well, why don't I just try the thing first? And then it works. I'm like, all right, cool. I guess we can punt this a little bit longer. Like, I mean, so.
That's
but
great.
you got to be paying attention to do that. Yeah, yeah.
Well, you have to have a tool. And there are a lot of people that aren't given tools. They aren't taught how to fish. They're been given the fish, but they're not taught to fish. So, and it only happened so many times that I finally said, okay, I have to claim this, because so many people were not getting what they wanted out of it. They didn't feel any better. They didn't feel any differently. So the fact that you guys are is great. But I also know from past experience with my ex-husband and with other relationships, guys felt like, I mean, even in my current relationship, and some of you too, I think both of you have met Doug, there's a certain, like, if you're not structuring this for me, if I don't know where I'm going, then I don't know why I'm here. Because I could have this conversation with anybody and not pay them. How about, and I'm not learning anything new. I'm not seeing it in a different way. I'm just regurgitating to tell you who I am, and you may reflect some things back to me, and maybe they're interesting, but I don't know they're going to make the major changes that I'm here to make. And so I think there's a structure. I think there's an unfortunate overlying, and part of it's legal, which I understand, in the traditional talk therapy model. Again, not all people are using just traditional talk therapy. If you're using hypnosis or EMDR or EFT or many, and you're teaching your clients things, you're teaching them new ways to look at things. Now we're on to something, but so many people go in and don't really ever learn and always are the victim. It's always there. Everyone else is bad and they're victimized. And like, that's not going to fly. You're never going to be happy and feel good about yourself or feel empowered if you feel like the world is against you and your family doesn't listen to you and your husband doesn't appreciate you and your wife doesn't appreciate you. Like, it's just a lose-lose.
No, for sure. But like, I also, I mean, I guess the people that we associate with, like on this show for sure, are all in these healing modes, right? So, and
most of them are really like wounded healer, where they've gone through it themselves, you know.
And one thing that it's illuminated, like more than anything else, is I think the other reason why I might be leaning off of therapy is because now there's like 500 other things that I've gotten tool sets on, like EFT.
Amazing.
We went and found somebody to come on the show because I loved it so much, but it was introduced to me without my knowledge. I swear, like somebody was like, "Hey, would you meet with this woman?" You know, and I did, and she did an EFT thing on me, and like 2 weeks later, we had a follow up, and I got her. I was like, "What the hell did you do to me?" Like, you know, and she's laughing. She's like, "What happened?" And I said, everything just sort of went away. Like it was just like, it was a magic eraser for this problem I was having. And so now, you know, if you know that exists, it's easy to do. I mean, just tap yourself and, you know, do a mantra and you're kind of like mostly there. But you have to be taught how to do that. Like, and you have to be open to like tapping yourself in the face, which is a little weird from anybody.
I also think that's part of JJ's point there. It's like you need the tool. You need to be shown how to use the tool, and then you actually have to incorporate that, right? You know, I think she's absolutely right about some therapy where it's like, you know, I'm not saying therapists say this, but I mean, imagine coming in the same week and having the person say the exact same things as the client, as the patient there. Why aren't you changing? We've talked about this. Well, what is that trigger? What is that thing that I'm supposed to do to create that change? And that's why EFT and EMDR and it's a physical fucking trigger,
right?
You know,
right. And when you and I talked, Matt, originally about some of the sort of health hack like integrations of what I'm doing, I started to work with a lot of cancer patients a couple of years ago because cancer patients generally have lots of trauma and emotional sort of set points that create disease. And I'm not saying that the emotions are the only piece, but they're a huge piece that get missed all of the time. And I've seen it in my own clients who've had literally no other changes except emotional breakthroughs and their whole blood work changes that they're in. Yeah. And so I've been able to sort of prove by looking at, and I'm not trying to prove it. I know it works. I don't care, but someone else likes to see the data. I'm like, okay, great. You want to see the data? Like I appreciate Radical Remission and Dr. Kelly Turner for putting that together. But, you know, when I read it, I'm like, yeah, I know, because this is sort of common sense to me, but it's something that she decided to study and have data on, which is important because it helps to validate for lots of people in a scientific way. that this is real, that the 10 points of radical remission, 7 of them are mental, emotional, and spiritual. So, hello, this isn't about like people just radically, getting remission from cancer and healing their cancer. And it wasn't physical. It was emotional, mental, and spiritual. So to me, this is the underlying most important health hack we have, because if you do not fix what drives you, if you do not fix what emotional energy you sit in daily, the way that you look at the world, the way you interpret things, because the body won't heal if it's not in alignment and in a positive state. If you're in a stressful state, or you feel scarcity, or you feel anger, your body can't heal in that. That's not, it's that the body is in fight or flight. It has to be in a parasympathetic state, which is relaxed. Relaxed means happy. Relaxed means grounded. Relaxed means focused. Relaxed means trusting. And the two, working with Dr. Bruce Lipton for a couple of years now, he talks about in Biology of Belief and in every other book he's written, that there's only 2 beliefs, that there are 2 beliefs, and there are only 2 beliefs that you have to have in order to heal. And that is, you have to trust, you have to feel safe in the world and safe in your body. You have to feel safe, and you have to love yourself. And he has people do muscle testing to see if they can say it, but is it accurate? Do they actually mean it? And most people think they mean it, but they'll subconsciously test out of it. And also, you can also see by the way people act in the world and how they talk to themselves that they don't believe that. So, we have an epidemic of we want to get real complicated, when some of the biggest ways we can heal is super simple. Yes, the structures to get there and the therapies to get there, and the road might not be so easy, and it might not be too short, but it's the idea that how we heal is through having emotional stability, love, and feeling safe in the world.
Yeah, and I think you and I might have talked about the IFS practitioner who cured stage 4 cancer by basically, parts therapy it out. And I originally thought that was a little crazy sounding, mostly because I've got a really wide belief path. I really wide. You could take me down a path for miles before I call bullshit on it. And I'm fine to do it, but I also like the verification part, right? I'm like a trust but verify kind of guy. So when somebody like you comes at it, well, and all the people you mentioned, that comes at it with some quantitative evidence, it's always better, right? It's always kind of cool to hear that, because you're like, yeah, it makes sense. I agree with you. Somebody said the other day, did you know vegetable oil causes cancer? I'm like, well, yeah. They're like, but did you know the FDA just came out? I said, oh, I didn't even know that. But I thought you asked if I knew.
If you were aware of that was true.
I was like, I'm very aware that that's true, having nothing whatsoever to do with the FDA or anything that they have officially written. And they looked at me like I was insane. What kind of, you obviously don't know. You're just like a crazy internet meme guy. And I'm like, no, because I've known
the research
this for
has
years.
Been there for a while, yeah,
for years and years and years. This is just literally common sense. All the FDA was justification. That's it. There's nothing, quantifiable justification, I should say. Yeah.
Right. Died number 3, Florida in the water. Oh, we can go on and on. How many
things
that we all know are causing cancer that are completely legal and our country puts in our food.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the next interpretation of this looks like, because I think there's a time when I've said too that it's going to be, there's a 50% chance that it gets really better, and there's a 50% chance that it's infinitely worse.
I think it's going to be infinitely worse, because it doesn't
it's
matter
hard to tell
what anybody believes. It's going to be whatever money moves things.
Yeah, and
I will fight
we'll see.
people on that.
Yeah. Well, at least I have some hope. I will be okay to be in the hope of expecting good things to happen at some point somewhere, and I will.
Yeah. Well, I remain hopeful, because it's the better of the two options, right? Okay. So what are we hopeful about then, JJ? What's getting you going for this year? We're still pretty early in the year, so I think it's still not too late to see what the roadmap looks like, because you seem like you got a lot going on.
Yeah. Oh, so for me personally, and so the year's going to be kind of busy. I have several. Yeah, I have. I'm just really excited about finally. I can write a book in a month without thinking twice about that, or maybe even a week, because I have so much data that comes to me, and there's information and content is never a problem. And I do a lot of solo shows. I've been doing, I did 350 shows in 18 months. I did a 6-day week podcast for a year and a half.
Wow.
And it wasn't all just me, although a lot of it was. But when it comes to, because I got, again, content on different exercise, food, cooking, nutrition, hormones, wellness, psychology, behavior, relationships, astrology, quantum physics, law of attraction, like you name it, and I had it. The only thing I wasn't talking about was money back then, although now I am, because of course that's another component of energy that we need to bring into the conversation. But this book has been, I've written 3 books already, and none of them were life-changing for me. I mean, they were because my first book or whatever, like it's life-changing in that moment when you do it. But I've been evolving into this space of creating something that is new. And this core wound map thing is new. Now it comes from imago therapy, which is why I had to check in with Harvey yesterday to make sure, like, I'm like, okay, I'm going to write the book. And he's like, oh, great. I was like, all right, but it is based on your work. Like I took one exercise from your work and I've did a deep dive with it and expanded upon it. And he's excited for me. So I'd love to have that credibility of the person who created all
cool
this.
Getting that nod from him, you know?
Well, and he's been on my show since 2018. And we've done work with them, and you know, he loves me, and I know he thinks I know my stuff, but this is another level of proving that I know the work, and inside out and backwards, and I've created something new from it. Like I've decided that, okay, this isn't enough, especially when you take a couple's exercise and you make it about the individual. I'm like, well, why? Hold on, you don't have to. It's my one regret. I wish I would have started learning about the work before I had a problem in my marriage at the end, because the work is so powerful for an individual. Forget your relationship for a second. There's so much to learn about yourself and to be the best self you can be, which is what I was always trying to do anyway. But this was the game changer. So what's on the docket this year for me is to write the book, because Harville is 89. So I got to get that book done quick. Yeah. I mean, he's in good health, and I don't fear he's going anywhere anytime soon. But I have
he's not getting younger.
Correct. Well, yeah. You know, he is kind of getting biologically younger, because he's so excited about the passion and the work that they do in the world that he's lit up all the time. He's curious. I think the secret to longevity is curiosity.
I don't disagree there at all.
I really do.
Although
Like,
I had a crazy conversation about quantum the other